Welcome back to our King related podcast, wherever you may be. And if you're watching on our Kings related YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, leave a comment down below. That just helps spread the word of what I'm trying to do over here at the Kings related podcast and YouTube channel. And on today's episode, we continue our little season review grades of players from this past season of the Sacramento Kings. And last episode, we featured Keegan Murray and his season review / grades. And today, it is all about Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis, who's had a storybook career thus far in his young career, going from an undrafted two-way contract in the 2022 NBA draft to a postseason starter for the Sacramento Kings. And those good minutes started in that, if you remember, it was the Kings had a back-to-back in Houston. I believe it was the 23-24 season, and in the second game against the Rockets, the Kings absolutely got destroyed in the second game, and Keon Ellis gave the Kings some good 14 and a half minutes where he scored 15 points, 2 rebounds. He had an assist and a steal in those 14 and a half minutes against the Houston Rockets, where the Kings absolutely got hammered in that second game of that quote-unquote back-to-back. And it was that game that made enough of a positive impact impression to earn him significant rotational minutes that season going forward. And you can make the case this past season and even in that 23-24 season, Keon Ellis was arguably the biggest bright spot on the Kings team in both those years. This past season and in that 2023-24 season, as you know, Keon Ellis, he emerged as an excellent 3-and-D role player for the Kings, especially when you had Kevin Huerter at the time, who went down with an injury, and you had many fans, including myself and fans on social media, who were expecting, and we were all expecting, going into this past season, we were all expecting. Many fans were lobbying it to happen that Keon Ellis be that starting two guard alongside De'Aaron Fox to start this past season. Did not happen. I believe it was Malik Monk who started as the two guard to start the season. No, it was Kevin Huerter who started. But not only did Keon Ellis not start the season in the starting lineup, this is one of the things that most fans got frustrated with Mike Brown. Keon Ellis not getting consistent rotational minutes this past season. Under Mike Brown, and I had to look this up, under Mike Brown, Keon Ellis was limited to just 19.9 minutes per game. And also under Mike Brown, you had Keon getting DNP CDs. Why? We would never know. Was Keon Ellis perfect? No. No player is perfect. in an NBA game. Players make mistakes, but Keon Ellis was one of your best players this season. You can make the case he was one of your, besides Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis was your second best defender on a team that refused to guard their own shadow and just leave people open on the perimeter and just giving away points. But when Mike Brown was let go, fired, or whatever you want to say it, want to phrase it as, Keon Ellis' minutes under Doug Christie bumped up to 26.9 minutes per game. And Christie even ended up doing what a lot of, like myself and a lot of fans, were advocating for. Keep moving Keon Ellis into the starting lineup, Malik Monk back to the bench. Well, on this team, Malik Monk's best role was coming off the bench, which was this team from this past season. And so Keon Ellis started, but I think under Doug Christie as well, Doug Christie can't get out of it. I believe Doug Christie also did not give enough consistent minutes to Keon Ellis. I believe, this is my personal opinion, I believe Keon Ellis should have been playing at least 20 to 25 minutes a night on this Kings team this past season. One of your best players, excellent 3-and-D player, and because of those inconsistent minutes between Mike Brown, Doug Christie, it is why Keon Ellis was ineligible for those all-defensive team honors because of the rules that the league implemented at the start of the 2023-24 season. So because of those rules, Keon Ellis was ineligible for those all-defensive team honors. And if he was eligible, I believe Keon Ellis would have made an all-defensive team. But when Keon Ellis wasn't riding the bench like he was mostly under Mike Brown, because of whether it was his production falling off or that, Keon Ellis on this season was 74th percentile in defensive estimated plus minus. He was 96th percentile in steal rate and 82nd percentile in block rate per dunks and threes. And his his on plus off rating was the second highest on this Sacramento Kings team. Just behind what you can say is the Kings' best player in Domantas Sabonis. So you can make the case that Keon Ellis was your second best player on the Kings this season. Now, plus, Keon Ellis showed that he can shoot. He had a 43.3% three-point percentage attempts. He was second on the team behind Sabonis in three-point percentage. And yes, Sabonis is a little misleading because Sabonis doesn't take a lot. He doesn't take a lot of threes. But Keon Ellis getting those inconsistent minutes under Mike Brown, whether it was because of performance or other reasons, it is clear this past season, Keon Ellis should have started as the two guard beside De'Aaron Fox to start the season. Would the Kings maybe started the season off differently? We would never know. But there was no reason why Keon Ellis should have been getting DMPs at all this season. That is one of the things under Mike Brown, myself, other fans will never understand why he was getting those DMPs. For a team that lacked defensive ability, guarding their own shadow, allowing teams to shoot lights out in your home gym from beyond the three-point arc. But Keon Ellis, in my opinion, I believe he was the second best player on a Kings team that underperformed and underachieved this season, and why they ended up being the number 9 seed in a play-in, and why they absolutely got their ass kicked in that play-in game against the Mavs on their home court. So Keon Ellis, and if I was Scott Perry in his new front office, I am doing everything I can do to lock up Keon Ellis long term. Because I believe if the Kings decline his option, he becomes he becomes a restricted free agent, and any team that gives him an offer, the Kings have got to avoid that. The Kings have got to lock him up maybe for a 4-year deal this summer. Do not let it get to where he becomes a restricted free agent, where any team can offer him anything and you don't sign him back. The Kings have got to do everything they can to lock up Keon Ellis long term. He is a perfect fit for the identity that Scott Perry, Doug Christie have preached at the press conferences when Scott had his individual one, and then when they had that joint one with Doug Christie officially becoming head coach. Defensively, we know what Keon can do, but offensively, Keon Ellis really showed out and shined as an offensive player this past season. 43.3% from 3 this season. Second behind Sabonis. So, and what he can do what he can do defensively. Whether it's guarding Steph Curry or these other great players in the league, Keon Ellis should be a King long term, and you need to lock him up as soon as possible. Because you can look at if you want to look at a new core for the Sacramento Kings, it can start with Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis, and however you fill in the rest of this Kings roster going forward. We know this team's not going to tear it down and go a full rebuild, even though that's what most fans want. We know this franchise is not going to do that. So I just hope they can lock up Keon Ellis for long term. Maybe give him a 4-year deal with so and so. But Keon Ellis was one of the brightest spots on a Kings team this past season, and in that 23-24 season. And he's only going to get better. Mark my words. He's only going to get better. And if only Mike Brown was playing him more, we we could have been talking about an all-defensive team guy and Keon Ellis if he was eligible. And for those reasons, my 2024-25 season grade for Keon Ellis is a B. So, if you agree with that, please let me know in the comments. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, and let me know in the comments down below if you're watching on YouTube. Is a B grade the right one for Keon Ellis' season this past year? And if you're listening on your favorite podcasting app, either Apple, Spotify, please hit that follow button, rate 5 stars, leave a nice little review, be much appreciated as well. And we'll catch you on our next episode of our Kings related podcast. Take care, all as always. Go Kings.